Salutations, sleuths. I'm Gina.
I'm Maria.
And we are
Fortuitous.
Boom!
Okay. Do I dare ask what it's for?
I'm just showing how fast I can run.
Gina's got the zoomies, apparently. My neighbors are gonna think that a 2-year-old child is in the house.
I forget you have.
I have neighbors that are, yeah.
I'm just so happy I'm not wearing a fucking wig.
Right? But you have a ballerina bun instead. I feel like that's...
There's a clip in there.
so restrictive.
Why did you say it like that?
Because it's like so tight.
So restrictive.
So restrictive. Just be a little loosey-goosey.
But look at that gun show.
Just casual.
Just so. Just go.
Any excuse to...
Wow.
Today's topic is not about Maria's arms or Gina Zoomies.
No. Although I will share some business.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's not really business. But guess who's applying her... Wait, are we mixing up shows? Have we shared the show from last night? Or from last...
We are so far ahead. Like, we've not
man.
shared, like, anything.
Have we sent the episode so that I'm not giving any spoilers on the weekly wow that we recorded that was about challenging or doing the thing that you don't prepare for?
And that's what I can't remember. I feel like...
God. All right, spoiler alert, I'm doing a half marathon, so...
So, are you for sure? Because you...
No.
Okay. Because last week when we talked about it, you were up in the air and you were going to give the training program like 2 or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm. But I'm going to act like I'm doing a half marathon. I'm very prone to injury, so I didn't want to sign up for this big grand thing and not be smart about it and then, get some stupid injury again. But I also don't want to let that hold me back from trying to do it. So I'm not going to actually sign up until the date of the early bird, which is in September 20th. What is it?
End of September, so we have time to decide.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I'll just give it a feel, see how my body tolerates, because, it kind of jumps right in. I'm doing, 6 miles by week 2, and I'm like, okay.
Who is she?
How will we do? So I'm going to see how that goes, and if I can kind of keep up, then, I'm going to sign up. But I've already started my training 2 days in.
Yeah!
It's like, oh, yeah, you started your training. No, I've 2 days in, and I didn't do the first day. So we're off to a great start.
I think it was last episode where we said the weekly wow was to do things before you're totally prepared for them. Mm-hmm. Not saying to just go out and do a half marathon like tomorrow without preparing for it. But Gina took it to heart and is going to sign up for a half marathon without having done the training, and then she will do the training to prepare for it.
Great job summarizing. Thank you.
Yeah. Just
so
very proud of you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I'm also very liberated because I'm not wearing a fucking wig. My dad asked me, he's like, so are you still doing that podcast thing?
That podcast thing?
I was like, yeah, actually, it's going well. I said, he's like, well, do you have episodes and stuff? I said, yeah, we're coming up on 50. He's like, oh my gosh.
Damn.
What? Yeah, it's like, what? He's like, well, can I listen? I'm like, no.
Why not?
Do you hear this potty mouth? I will not expose my poor father's poor ears to this.
You mean you don't talk to your dad like you talk to me?
No, I'm an angel.
Damn. Well, ruin the imagery for your dad. 'Cause
I will not.
Let's get another listener.
No. He would be so disappointed.
The whole point, I think from episode 1, we were like, we record the episodes as if our parents are going to listen to them. So we're not going to talk about sex. We're not going to talk about sex. And we're not going to talk about booty stuff. Everything else is fair game, I feel like.
Gosh. No, see, I don't have a potty mouth around my parents, and I've got a sailor's mouth in this show, okay? I mean, it is a 180. I still think I'm, fairly reasonable on the show, but when it comes to the curse words, that's primarily like, I don't want him to hear the nonsense that spills from my mouth. So I was like, no, I'll show you clips. I'll give you a teaser, but you will not be listening to our shows. Thank you.
Please excuse the fuck out of my goddamn French.
He's like, well, what do you mean? And when I explain to him, I'm like, and then he's like, well, don't you think you shouldn't be having that kind of a mouth if you think that your dad can't listen to it? You think other people want to listen to that? I'm like,
damn straight they do.
I'm like, I don't give a fuck. No. No. Sorry, Dad. So I hope you never hear this.
My aunt did listen to an episode, my aunt and uncle, bless their hearts. And
oh, no.
And she did come back and say, she was like, well, I could go without all the F-bombs, but overall I liked it.
Yeah. No, join us on for this pirate's ship, okay?
Yeah, I mean, there's an E explicit for a reason.
Oh, is there?
I put the E in front of all the episodes, yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
Smart. Because I'm like, just going in. I hope there's no 10-year-olds just like, ooh, fortuitous, however the hell they find our name.
It's like punching in numbers.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about, if you want something done right, then do it yourself. Have you heard that phrase before?
Yeah.
Napoleon Bonaparte is credited for saying it, which is very fitting because he was like one of the greatest war generals or Revolutionary Army people of all time. I'm butchering my history, but
no, it's all right. You could have fooled me.
Everyone knows who Napoleon Bonaparte is.
No,
was.
They don't.
And by they, do you mean you?
Yes.
You've never heard of Napoleon Bonaparte?
I've not heard of Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, that's okay. That says everything.
No, well, I don't know.
I guess to be fair, also...
wait, Napoleon, the
Napoleon.
There's only one Napoleon, right?
He's like the Emperor of France for like... I
have heard of him. I didn't know his last name. Okay. So, no, I do know him. There's a movie about him out now.
There's a lot of stuff, yeah.
Cool. No, I do. I dig him. Weird guy.
He's smart guy. Very smart. He's got a lot of really great one-liners. Mm-hmm. And I'm tempted to do like a whole episode on him just because he's really fascinating. He was way ahead of his time.
Yeah, he sure was.
And, we need some Fab Fellas episodes. We got Boss Bitches, and we need Fab Fellas.
Fab Fellas?
I kind of dig it.
Who is he? Okay, I'm in for it.
And today's episode is all dudes.
Did you just come up with that on the spot?
No, I thought about it yesterday.
Oh, okay. I'm like, Fab Fella.
Fab Fellas. I've came up with it on a run, and I'm like... Hold on to that nugget. Just hold on to it, Maria. Don't forget it.
Don't let it go.
Write it down when you get home.
I'm sure any of our few in-between male listeners are like, Fab.
Get the fuck out.
You went with the most feminine version to describe Fab Fella. Maybe we should tweak it a little bit, but it's good. I like it.
To start.
It's good.
We take suggestions. Anyway, so this whole... episode is about people that were like, fuck it, I got it, I'm gonna do it myself, and we're successful. So we're going to start with Dr. Barry Marshall, who's a gastroenterologist from Australia, the stomach doctors. Mm-hmm. So he was convinced that a certain bacteria, which I meant to look up the pronunciation and I didn't, so Helicobacter pylori, a specific bacteria, is all that matters, was the cause of stomach ulcers, but no one had believed him. Because it's unethical and highly illegal to test on humans, he decides he's going to drink the bacteria himself. Sure enough, he developed the ulcers within days, and apparently it was like super bad. And then he treated himself with what he knew was the cure, that no one believed him.
Yeah.
And it was just your good old-fashioned antibiotics. And then he goes on to win the Nobel Peace Prize in 2005.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Bold.
Very bold.
That's scary because you just don't know.
And it's even crazier when you learn of his background, because he didn't go into gastroenterologist from the get-go.
Gastroenterology.
Thank you. I'll have you just correct it every time. He didn't go into the gastro to start.
Okay.
And so I do have, some of the background here, but his whole story is pretty wild. Like, who is Barry? How did we get here? So Dr. Barry Marshall, he was born in 1951 in Australia, 370 miles east of Perth, with the TH at the end, in a prosperous mining town called Kalgoorlie. And then seeing that most of the boys stopped schooling at around age 16 to work in the mines and earn, high salaries from that, and then use that money to go like party and drink. Marshall's mom, or Barry's mom, decided that she didn't want that for her children. And so she decided to move the fam back to Perth, and then they were able to all attend university there. Not only attend university, but become highly successful afterwards.
Thank you, Mama.
Right. So she had the foresight from like when they were super young, like maybe 5 years old, to be like, let's do something a little bit different.
Okay.
But Barry, he was born with boundless curiosity, like straight from the womb, just Mr. Curious. And he was also like a tinkerer. So all throughout his childhood, he would question a lot of things. He would work with his dad on like fixing the car, or like read his mom's medical books. And so he was just very hands-on, like from the get-go. And he ended up being the oldest of 4 kids. And with being the oldest, there's a certain expectation that you are kind of responsible for your younger siblings, and which was great. However, the siblings were also curious, and Barry liked to encourage that curiosity as opposed to stifle it. So there's a couple examples of where his younger siblings were curious, specifically when they were wondering what would happen if the younger brother would jump out of a tree. So Barry, instead of being like, no, you shouldn't do that, he was like, go right ahead, my brother.
See what happens.
See what happens.
Stick around and find out.
Fuck around and find out. So he did, and then he broke his arm.
Okay.
So, like, the results are expected.
Live and learn. That is exactly what these kiddos are doing. That's good.
Yeah. And then winning the Nobel Peace Prize, not Peace Prize, but just a Nobel Prize in 2005, that was not Barry's first exposure to fame. So he had a little 15 minutes when he was like 12 years old. So again, he's watching his siblings, and his 18-month-old sister found a milk bottle. In that milk bottle, there was kerosene, and she drank it.
Kerosene? Why?
Right? Lots of great questions.
Okay.
So the brothers found her choking, and they're like, holy shit, what's happening? Have no idea what's happened. She just drank from a bottle. Barry, who had just learned CPR from a swimming training, was like, I know this isn't going to work because she's breathing, but I have no idea what else to try. So he administers CPR on her, and when he's close to the mouth, he smells the kerosene. She's like, oh, she's been poisoned. So he calls, the poison control authorities, the 911 of Australia. I don't know who that is, but she ended up saving her.
How old was he?
He was 12.
He put 2 and 2 together.
Like that.
That breath that he's smelling
was kerosene.
What? I don't know what the smell of kerosene is. I don't know what the smell of a bad chemical is in someone's mouth.
Right.
That they've digested.
Like, damn girl, your breath stank. Like,
I would have been like, ooh,
brother,
12 years old. That's gnarly.
Yeah.
You know what? That's someone who gets a Nobel Peace Prize when they are older. Is someone who does some shit like that at 12 years old.
It was foreshadowing for his future. And so he was featured in the paper a few days later. The sister was totally recovered, and she's sitting on his lap. It's a cute picture. There's a note in the paper that warns people to, like, hey, don't put chemicals in drinking bottles. Mm-hmm. And then it also, like, listed the number for poison control as a great reminder for people. Come to find out, Barry's mom did not let the press know that it was actually Barry himself who put the kerosene in the bottle. So, like,
Oh my god.
that's also how he knew it was kerosene.
Okay.
So, like, you know.
He's probably like, oh shit, I know that smell. Oh my god, Barry, what the fuck?
Like, what
that
are you doing?
took such a turn. Why did this child have kerosene in the bottle? Do you have somewhere up your sleeve on what he was doing?
I don't know what he just liked to experiment with a lot of stuff.
What a wild kid, man.
Right. And then and the mom, like, she went grocery shopping. So she is comfortable leaving an 18-month-old with a 12-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just different times, because this was back in, 60s.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
12-month-old, or wait, a 12-year-old, yeah, that's
With an 18-month-old?
Just on the verge of a tween, so.
You're a year shy of getting
they are a
married.
tween. Okay.
Yeah. That's 1800. And then, so his siblings, Barry's siblings, were not the only ones to be on the other end of his curiosity. Barry's father would also often be on the other end of that. And one time, Barry was trying to repair, like, a frayed cord on this electric drill, but accidentally switched just a couple wires.
Mm-hmm.
And his father found out whenever he went to go use it a couple days later, and he was standing on some wet grass, and he jumped really high. Quote, jumped rather high.
Because he was zapped. What did he find something out from this? Did he learn something?
Yeah, he crossed the wires.
Oh.
I was trying to fix it, and was like, mixed up a couple. So fast forward to university, Barry went ahead and chose medicine because it was still interesting, but it did not involve calculus every day. So he's not a fan of the math. This man's graduated with a Bachelor of Medicine and a Bachelor of Surgery in 1975. So double. And then he began his training as a specialist physician in 1978. Guest starring Ozzy. Pause real quick.
This bitch.
She was sleeping. Okay.
Literally the demon child.
Yep. We're off our normal schedule, so things are awry.
Mm-hmm.
So he graduated with Bachelor of Medicine and of Surgery in 1975, began his training as a specialist physician in 1978, and then he moved to Royal Perth Hospital in 1979 to become more experienced in cardiology and open heart surgery. So he got like just general, and then he's going to cardiology and open heart, and then it's while he's there that he decides to take a rotation with gut health. So in 1981, I guess during your rotation you visit like different doctors or fields, and so gut health or gastroenterology was one of them, and that's where he met Robin Warren. And as part of his training, Barry had to perform like a clinical research project every year. So you get one big project that you do each year, I guess, in your rotation. And it's while that he's doing this project, Robin Warren had a list of patients that had this like curved bacteria in their stomach biopsies. And so it's like, what the hell are those? Like, people have not, I guess, really understood the curved bacteria. And Barry's interest was piqued, though, when he saw on that list was a woman that he had already seen before in like his regular rotation or his regular study. She had come to see him with severe stomach pain, but he was unable to diagnose it. But yet now she's on this list of people that have these curved bacteria in their stomachs. So then he was like, okay, I need to find out what that is. In between all of this, and in his free time, he does have like a wife, and then he has 4 children, and then he continues his tinkering with computers and electronics, and also renovating his home.
What a guy.
Just constantly busy and tinkering and doing stuff. But that's important to note for later, as he's still tinkering with computers and electronics. So due to his knack for learning and perpetual curiosity, Barry was unperturbed that he didn't have like gut health history or knowledge. He was confident in his just general self and his general physician training that he would be able to grasp this rotation. So the first 6 months was deep diving in the devil's butthole, if you will, for details. So he was going down this rabbit hole of books, library archives, obscure microbiological journals, anything that he could find that would reference the spiral bacteria. And he was able to find some, but they all just glazed over it. It was just like, we see it, it's mentioned here, but then nothing to follow. Mm-hmm. And then the second 6 months, then he starts working on theorizing what it is, putting together hypotheses. In the meantime, he is also tending to bone marrow transplant patients. So he's trying to like do double duty. Wow. So he's just a busy man.
You ever think of, like, as you were looking at this, it's like, I wonder to all the gastroenterologists.
Oh my gosh. I may have to just pause this and put her up in cat jail, because I don't know if we're going to be left alone. Oh. She did not like that answer. Ozzy, okay, pause.
That cat came to me and chose violence, man.
I know. God bless.
She came at me, looked at me, and slapped me.
For the love of Petunia.
I'm just glad that was caught on tape.
You have
everyone can see proof. She is just so rude to me, and it's like
she's a demon.
Okay. So, anyways, I was gonna say, like, have you ever, like, as you were reading this, really anyone, I think any gastroenterologist is probably thinking, stay in your lane, bro. I mean, he did find a solution, and he made a huge change. And to anyone that's on the opposing side of it that needs a solution, it's like, thank God someone stepped to the plate and took care of it. But any gastroenterologist that is like fighting to, you know, make something of their career, and then, you know, some guy that slithers in that doesn't even focus on that.
Don't mind if I do.
I've got this, guys. If you can't do it, I'll take care of it, you know?
It's exactly that.
Like, I love it. But if I were in the mind of the people that were trying to do it also already, I would have been like, where the fuck did this guy come from?
Well, see, that thought never occurred to me, but I also think that, like, no one was just looking at this S-curve bacteria. It's mentioned in a bunch of journals, but then they just left it at that.
Well, who knows? Maybe people were looking at it.
Well, he beat him to it.
He beat them right to it.
He just came in from left field, solved it, and then I was like, see ya. And
then everyone's sitting there like, roadblock, how do we test this? And they're just kind of like, maybe some opportunity will come. Gotta do a lot of, you know, check a lot of boxes, go through a lot of obstacles to get the green light to make the test happen. And he's like, fuck off, I don't have time for that.
Just shrink it. It's essentially what happened. Yeah, but I don't know how many other people were also kind of looking into it or faced some of the obstacles.
Okay.
So, like I mentioned earlier, you know, he has his computer tinkering hobby. Well, by the end of 1981, so this is like, you know, 6 months of him reading all the stuff that he can on gut health, and then 6 months to try to hypothesize. Within those, like, 12 months of multitasking, he's also working on computers. And by the end of 1981, he had made his own home computer capable of word processing. Like, this man built his own computer just at his house.
I love it.
So that means that he could type grant proposals, he could type up consent forms, protocols. I mean, he had the leading edge of technology, like, in his own home. And then communications with overseas researchers became way more efficient because of it. And so you have this one man, unfunded, by the way, like, he's doing all of this, like, on his own dime, being way more efficient than these teams of multi-person and funding, because he's made this home computer for himself.
That's how you get a Nobel Prize.
It's exactly how you do it. So fast forward to 1984, so this is 3 years later. Again, I guess medicine is not very fast. He's becoming increasingly frustrated because testing is not working. He's trying to infect lab mice, and they just aren't getting infected with this specific bacteria. And then he's getting constant criticism and just downright rejection. So to your point, like, were people jealous, or were they just shrugging him off? Because they were saying that his conclusions, they were premature, that they weren't well supported, and then his results were disputed and disbelieved.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was facing, you know, not just barriers from other people, but now he's also having a hard time, like, producing results with lab mice. And so it turns out that this H. pylori bacteria, it only affects primates, which we learn later, which is why the mice weren't getting infected.
Here I am sitting, I'm like, maybe they have a different makeup of, like, their body. I don't know, that they're not getting into it.
Damn straight, Gina's got the science brain.
I should get a Nobel Prize.
Yes.
I've got it all figured out.
Check you out. Sign up for a half marathon, curing the world. Who is she? And then also, since you can't test on humans, he felt like he only had one option. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not working in the mice. Who else am I going to test on? And if his hypothesis was correct, that you don't need surgery to remove the ulcers, that you just need a simple 2-week course of antibiotics and bismuth, then this would revolutionize ulcer disease treatment. Not only that, but then patients, he hypothesized that this bacteria was also responsible for peptic ulcers and stomach cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it would revolutionize a lot.
Yes.
Yes. So he was, you know, made his little elixir, shot it back, and chased it.
Jeez.
and go ahead.
I was just thinking, man has got a lot going on with these ulcers, right? You feel like ass. You're not at the top of your game. Mm-hmm. Did he already have this concoction of antibiotic waiting and sitting ready? Or did he...
He took it from an infected person.
What do you mean?
So, like, however you obtain the bacteria from someone who already had it, then he added it to a broth and then drank the broth.
Okay. But I'm saying, how did he get the antibiotic? Did he have it ready to go? So he didn't have to conjure it up after he had ulcers?
Yeah, I think it's just your typical antibiotic. It's like very cheap, easy to get.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, he thought, you know, for the sake of the patients and research, like, this needs to be fast-tracked. Mm-hmm. And he did not tell his wife his plan. Remember, he's got a wife and 4 kids. Because he thought that these are one of the occasions that would be, quote, easier to get forgiveness than permission. And he was, like, just that confident in his...
Not wrong. But he has to know for a fact he's going to have a cure. Otherwise, he just gave himself cancer, basically.
Essentially, yeah. And so he swallows the bacteria, and boom, he's immediately infected, immediately feels like shit. And he himself was even surprised by the severity of the infection and how quick. But he says, quote, "I had a successful infection. I had proved my point." So as soon as he gets infected, then he was like, I was fucking right. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, he took the antibiotics. He was able to cure himself. And then by the end of 1984, now he's finally funded. And in 2005, he goes on and wins the Nobel Prize with Warren, who was the guy that he originally started with, that gave him the list of patients and said, hey, they have this S bacteria. So they both accepted it together.
Bless that he gave the credit to someone that had to help him along
like a starting point.
Yeah, because you kind of think, I'd never get this far if it wasn't for this. And instead of just saying their name, or for that matter, not saying their name at all.
Right.
He had them come up and accept it with him?
Well, they both won it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's remarkable. I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then today, the standard care for an ulcer is treated with that antibiotic. Mm-hmm. And then stomach cancer, which was once one of the most common forms of malignancy, is virtually gone from the Western world.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. That's beautiful.
So, you know, just like the high level that, you know, a man swallows bacteria, finds a cure, and does all that is, like, interesting enough itself. But I found his background to be equally fascinating.
We need him to switch lanes and go take care of some like other type
Some
of
of
cancer.
the other cancers, right?
Like, just go take a whale over here.
Yeah, like, Dr. Barry, can you go to this rotation?
How old is he?
He was born in 51, so he's in his 70s. High 70s.
The fact that he's still around, though. The man that has created the standard care of antibiotics is
Cured
still here.
ulcers.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love to meet that man.
There's YouTube videos on him. You can see him, like, answering questions on, you know, what his thoughts were throughout his whole time, you know, figuring it out.
Can't help but question the variables going into it. Like, is there such thing as too much bacteria that you will not be able to get fixed if you take X amount of antibiotics?
Yeah, I'm sure he had it down to a science.
I hope so. Hope he was just like,
I trust a good doctor.
that looks good.
I don't think it was just like a measure with your heart.
Or make how many days to let it go before you're like, okay, now I've got to try it. It's bad enough I take it. Or did he take it like the very next day? I don't know. That's a lot of variables. And there's no real control in this experiment of his. He's just like,
It's just him.
let's just go for it. You know?
I read his like little autobiography section, which is where I got everything from, and it sounded like, you know, he was feeling the symptoms like pretty quick after he got infected. So I'm sure he waited, like you said, X amount of time before starting to take it, or like he confirmed or validated that yes, he did have ulcers before then taking the antibiotics. I'm sure there's a whole article journal out there on the whole process.
Okay. I'll have to look more into it. Thank you for telling us about Barry.
Dr. Barry Marshall. All right, our next dude here, we've got Almon Brown Strowger. He's the inventor of the automatic switchboard. What the hell is a switchboard? for some of us that don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Well, so like way back in the day, it was a lot more prevalent than it is now. I think nowadays, like, you still have it, but so you know how like when you call the doctor's office, you typically don't get a person anymore. It's like press 1 for this, press 2. So that there used to be a person that would direct your call to someone else or to a different department. And so the switchboard would do it automatically. So then you wouldn't need a person to do it for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So many folks out of business.
Talk about automating your job.
Yeah.
But the story behind it is pretty funny. So we're going way back in our time machine. Almon Strowger, he was an undertaker in Kansas City, Missouri. What? Represent? We're not in Kansas City, but we're in Missouri.
What? That has nothing to do with anything.
Proximity. So this is like late 1800s. And so he noticed that he was receiving a lot less calls into his funeral home business after hiring this one broad. Well, turns out that this one lady that he hired to work the switchboard was actually the wife of the rival undertaker.
No way.
Yes way. So this bitch was directing all of the calls that was going into his business to her husband's business.
That's hilarious. But she was getting paid.
By him. So he was essentially paying for his business to go to the competition.
Talk about really being smart. Let me help my husband get more money for us by me directing everything, and I'll get paid doing it by him.
It's smart, but it's also shady as shit, and it's rude.
It's so funny though.
Well, so he caught on, and so that inspired him to create the biggest fuck you ever, and I'm going to automate your job.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he made the switchboard, and then, like I said, nowadays there are some people that still direct calls, but for the most part it's pretty automated. And he patented it in 1891, and then to further facilitate this process, he also invented the rotary dial. Phones. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
What was there before the rotary phone? Was there anything?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because I'm trying to think, did he just invent the phone?
Asking the wrong person. But I do know that this did revolutionize telephone technology. Did it create it? Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I didn't go that deep. But it's funny because he would go on to brag about his inventions and how they were, quote, girl-less, so no girls, girl-less, cuss-less, out of order less, and weight-less. So you don't have no girls, you don't have no cussing, you have no out of order, and you don't have no waiting with my automatic switchboard. Automating everyone's job.
Wow, okay. I respect it. But I bet when he found that out, he's like, okay, I got it.
I see you, and I'll raise you 10. Yeah, so he ended up passing away in 1902. And then my grandma, she actually still owns a rotary dial phone.
Oh.
I learned how to dial a phone number with that phone.
Wow. Yeah, my grandma had one as well, and I thought it was the coolest thing. I loved playing with it when I was a kid. But talk about an emergency.
I know. 911. Or like you forgot to like do like the 8 first or whatever you have to do.
Shit. Right again. Do you have any like Gen Z listeners who are like,
what the hell is that?
Fuck?
Look it up. Google it. All right. So our third and our last guy. Again, I'm so sorry. I meant to look up these pronunciations and I just totally forgot.
Oh, she a Gina.
Yeah.
She's a Gina. It's all right.
Who is she today?
She's fun. She's cute. So.
No, I like to be able to know how to. I mean, not saying that you're not cute, but I'm saying I know. I want to know how to pronounce.
I was like, okay, I'll raise you 10. I'll do it.
It's actually not fun at all. How do you do it? Therapy.
Tell me. That's great.
All right. So this is a Russian name. His name is Leonid Rogozov.
Yep, that's good.
The man who gave himself an appendectomy in Antarctica.
Okay, maybe you should give it a quick spelling in case anyone wants to look it up.
Last name Rogozov. And if you just look up man who gave himself appendectomy, he comes up.
I don't like this, but go ahead.
Also, if you do look it up, just beware. It shows a picture. In case you're kind of like... Pause for Gina to look it up.
I hope they heard my pitter-patter.
I'm sure that they did. So this is back in 1961. There was a team of 12, including him, Russian surgeon Leonid Rogozov. They were on an expedition to the Antarctic. There, they were sent to build like a new base at the Schumacher Oasis as part of like the 6th Soviet Antarctic expedition. And then after they completed their mission, then like this huge winter storm hit. And then during the storm, Rogozov became gravely ill. Quote, I did not sleep at all last night. It hurts like the devil. And then he goes on to like describe the pain as like a actual snowstorm whipping through his soul, and it was like wailing like 100 jackals. So I wonder what could it be. So he's self-diagnosed. It's acute appendicitis. And I mean, I've not had it, but I heard it's a bitch. Like I heard it's really, really painful.
And you're vomiting. I mean, you are very, very ill in a very painful way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just go away.
Right.
You need to get that shit out.
It's gonna get worse.
Yes.
And it's gonna kill you if you don't do anything.
It's pretty bad.
So he's got the diagnosis. The only problem is he is the only surgeon there. So you got a team of 12. He's the only surgeon, and you're in the Antarctic and during a winter storm. So he weighs all of his odds and realizes there's no possibility of outside help. He decides he's going to perform the surgery on himself, which at that time had never been done in the history of ever.
So he was the first person to do it himself, but he does know what like an appendectomy does exist.
Oh yeah, he's a surgeon, and he's done them. He's just never done them on himself.
Okay, I think I missed that. I thought he was doing like the first appendectomy ever,
No.
and just so happened to be on himself. Okay.
No, just the self appendectomy surgery.
Is it the first and the last?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
Because, like, your choices are die trying or die anyway, so you might as well try it. Mm-hmm. And spoiler alert, he was successful because we're here talking about it. Mm-hmm. Hence the name of the episode. So Rogozov, he was strategic about it, though. He wasn't just going to willy-nilly go for it. So he laid out a plan, and he assigned specific roles and tasks to his team members. So one person was to hold the lamp and the mirror so that he could see himself in the mirror as he's doing it. And then one person was to pass him the tools. And then you had your station director that was in the room in case anyone fainted so that he could pull him out or perform any CPR or anything like that. He also instructed everyone how to inject him with adrenaline and perform artificial ventilation in case he himself lost consciousness.
Yeah.
So he's like, if I pass out, then hit me up with this and hit me up with this.
Okay.
So.
Ooh, sorry. Didn't hope to burst any ears there.
And he kept a diary. So you can read, like, his actual words of, like, before, during, after. Mm-hmm. And so there's an excerpt from his diary just before the operation. And it says, "My poor assistants. At the last minute, I looked over at them, and they stood there in their surgical whites, rather white themselves." Because I was scared too. But when I picked up the needle with the Novocaine and gave myself the first injection, somehow I automatically switched into operation mode. And from that point on, I didn't notice anything else.
Wow.
Just put the game face on and was like, let's go. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. I mean, not that is the same thing and not that I know anything about it, but I imagine how surgeons typically describe how they're able to perform surgery is some take the technique of removing the face. It's not a face, it's just a body, and I've got to do this. Mm-hmm. Some prefer emotion behind it. It's like a motivation, but I guess he was just like, this is a body. Do the math.
Yeah, I feel like every surgeon just gets into their own zone. Mm-hmm. I feel you would have to.
Right. That's a hero.
Yeah.
Literally.
So, I mean, at this point, there's no turning back now because he gave himself local anesthetic to the abdominal wall. But you don't want to be anesthetized while you're doing the surgery. So once he cut through once he cut through, I guess, the abdominal wall, then he would have to go the rest of the way without any pain relief whatsoever.
Wait, he was doing this with pain?
With pain. Because he wanted to have a clear head. What
does anesthetize mean?
Like anesthesia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just a fancier...
Ooh,
so he's doing this feeling everything.
Ooh,
because like I said, he wants to have a clear head. You don't want to be drowsy and loopy and everything, right?
But
and then it turns out the mirror was doing jack shit. It was like inverting the view too much, so he ended up doing it all by touch.
Oh God,
without gloves.
Oh, God.
So that he could really feel where he was at.
And these photos do not hold back. I mean...
No, they're pretty gnarly.
He is looking down at himself.
Yep.
Without gloves, just up in there.
Stuff is out.
Yeah. That's gnarly.
Yeah. And turns out it was like touch and go for a bit towards the end. Like he almost lost consciousness around like the final part, which happens to be like the hardest part of the operation. But after 2 hours, it was a success. And he stitched himself back up, and then he instructed his colleagues to clean up all the surgical instruments. And it was only after the room was like clean and tidy that he took antibiotics and then sleeping pills. Like everything had to be like perfectly clean and back in its spot. And then he was like, all right, antibiotics, sleeping pills. He was back to his normal surgical duties as a surgeon just 2 weeks later. So he performs surgery on himself, takes 2 weeks off, and then is right back at it.
I'm looking at this photo of him, and he just looks like a guy that would do a damn surgery on himself.
Do it on himself.
He just looks like that fucker. Like,
yeah, that smile says everything.
You little fuck. Go off.
Anyway, he was awarded the Order of Red Banner of Labor, which honored the great deeds and services to the Soviet state and society. And then his bravery was also held up as a symbol of bravery to the rest of the world. But he was, like, very humble. Like, he didn't want to, like, be in the press and the news about it. He didn't brag about it. Wasn't very grandiose. He just went right back to work as if, you know, like, nothing ever happened.
Right on.
Very humble, very modest. And then his son believes that his father's legacy is one of inspiration. His son goes on to say, quote, "If you find yourself in a seemingly desperate situation when all odds are against you, even if you're in the middle of the most hostile environment, do not give up. Believe in yourself and fight. Fight for life."
Wise words of this child of his.
Yeah.
Probably an adult when he said it, but
Probably.
still.
Yeah, his son. But,
How did his son turn out? What is he doing?
you know, I didn't go down that rabbit hole.
It's for the best. You know what? For the best. That was awesome, dude. Did you have any, before I move on, did you have any more with that?
No, so there are more people on the list, but I felt like 3 was a good number, and then we could do a follow-up 3 or something for like a part 2 sometime down the road.
That's awesome. That was very wonderful. We'll work on it, but for now, fabulous.
Fab fellas.
Fab fellas. Of course I had to say the fabulous.
Yeah, you
Fabulous
made it
fellas.
more fabulous. Just fab fellas.
We'll work on it.
Write in if you have suggestions on that. We're looking for
Gentlemen.
We're looking for the equivalent of boss bitch, but for dudes.
Yeah.
Dapper dude. Great gent.
Dapper.
Dapper. So yeah, if you have suggestions, let us know. And then if you know someone like that embodies this, if you want something done right, do it yourself, write in and we'll include their story or your own story if it is you.
Mm-hmm. I think the Weekly Wow needs to kind of mirror what this whole episode is all about.
Yeah, if you want something done right, do it yourself.
Maybe tweak it a little bit. Maybe give who else is doing it a chance.
No.
Support them. Give it a go, but yeah.
No, I was that weirdo in school that when given the option or the choice to either work independently or with a group, I always chose by myself.
You were that bitch. Yeah.
I was that weirdo. Literally the only one in all my classes that would choose by myself. Mm-hmm. But I want to be in charge of my own destiny. I wasn't relying on other people's times. I had high standards for my work, and I knew that theirs wasn't going to live up to it. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah, she was that bitch.
I was that I still am that bitch.
You turned out all right.
So
Okay.
I guess you could like tweak the Weekly Wow to whatever is more fitting for you. So like if you may be a control freak, such as myself, maybe learn to delegate. That's a skill in itself, is to be able to relinquish some of the control. It's not easy, but maybe try it.
And have trust in your team. Trust is a big thing.
It is a
you
big
don't
thing.
trust them because they did some shit, I understand. We've all been there.
Right.
But yeah, definitely be willing to not have to do everything for yourself on your own.
It's okay to ask for help.
Yeah.
But if you're on the other end where you're like getting really pissy or upset with just the results, then just take ownership of it and do it yourself.
Yes, I like that. Try the opposite of what you're used to.
Yeah.
All right, nice job, buddy.
Thank you, pal.
Bye.
Bye. Dude, I was at the grocery store yesterday and the cashier was like, talking to this one kid, and the kid was like, "Hi." And then the cashier was like, "Hey, buddy." And I was like, see, it is condescending.
No, it's not. He's talking to a child.
Yes, and when you say, "Hey, buddy," I immediately just like, child.
You know what you need? Thicker skin.
She already too thick.